Hello friends, my name is Brian and welcome to the channel. In this episode we're going to show you 4 days in Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island, the Canadian Maritime provinces. First day we went to Grand Pre National Historic Site. Grand Pre is a UNESCO World Heritage Site that commemorates the expulsion of the Acadians. The Acadians were some of the first French settlers in the area, and they refused to swear allegiance to the crown, and so the British came and deported them from the site here where the Black Cross is marking the site. After that, we drove down the western coast of Nova Scotia to Annapolis Royal. And here Jessica took a bicycle ride while I explored the historic gardens. Walked around the beautiful rose gardens. And then I walked the boardwalk out onto the dikes. The dikes were built in order to keep the salt water out. It was fun walking out in the dikes and listening to all the birds. The place had a quiet solitude to it. Back in the main gardens, there's a reproduction of an Acadian hut. A water lily pond. And some formal gardens. I love the view of the terrace here. Then I rejoined Jessica and we walked to downtown Annapolis Royal, where we saw Fort Anne National Historic Site, a fort which never saw battle. And we drove a short distance to Digby. Digby is the center of fishing and whale watching excursions. It had a beautiful harbor there and a nice little lighthouse. We then crisscrossed the entire island from west to east, stopping on the south shore, as they call it, at the town of LaHave. LaHave has all these beautiful rocky coastlines, and we're even able to drive Vanna on the Crescent Beach sand. One of my van life dreams. This is the view at Risser's Beach. And just all these nice rocky cove inlets around LaHave. Then we took the 6 p.m. ferry across the channel. The ferry was completely free. We got there about 5 minutes before it left. On the other side, we drove to the historic fishing village of Lunenburg, where they have a tall ship there called the Blue Nose 2. A nice quaint harbor. The Fisheries Museum of the Atlantic. And the Fisherman's Memorial. This is the view of Lunenburg from across the bay. And finally, we headed for another hour to Peggys Cove, speeding up the highway to try to get there before sunset. We arrived about 40 minutes before sunset and got the nice golden light pictures. It was packed with people, but we were still able to make it feel like we had the place to ourselves. And finally, we watched the sunset on a very peaceful ocean right there at Peggys Cove Lighthouse. One of the things that I think is completely remarkable about Peggys Cove is that they don't charge any admission, and they allow you to fly your drone there. And we were even able to stay overnight in the visitor center parking lot for free. These are the views in the morning at sunrise. And since I was one of only a few people there, I was able to send the drone up and get some amazing aerial footage. After sunrise and early morning at Peggys Cove, we then drove up the south shore on the eastern coast of Nova Scotia to the capital, Halifax, where once again, as before on our previous trip, we did not pay to go see the Citadel. We just walked around the harbor front. It was early on a Sunday morning, and it was fun kind of watching the sleepy town come to life. Then we drove all the way up to the northwest corner of Nova Scotia to Cape Breton Island, following the Cabot Trail. Here we are in Lola's, meeting the Hookers. The Hookers are a group of elderly women that make these rugs purely by hand. The woman has been working on this rug now for a week and a half. One of the rugs on the wall took her half a year. This is a specialty of the region, as is fiddling. Driving along Cape Breton Island National Park, we happened to see some whales. So we pulled over and watched the whales for a while. A little later on, no video, unfortunately, we also saw 2 moose calves right next to the van along the side of the road. These are some of the views of the coastline from Cape Breton Highlands National Park. It's in the town of Neels Harbor. This is Black Brook Beach, also in Cape Breton Highlands National Park. Then we went just a little south of the national park, still on the Cabot Trail, and found this wonderful boondocking site right on the Cabot Strait. Stayed there overnight and got up early for the morning sunrise. It's very peaceful. Nice to just open your van door and see this amazing view. This is what boondocking and van life is all about. Days like this. We then drove east to the town of Sydney, also on Cape Breton Island. And in Sydney, they have a cruise ship port where they have the world's largest fiddle and the statue called A Land of Our Own. Jessica always likes the red chair experience. These red Adirondack chairs are spaced throughout the area, and she always likes to find them and sit in them. Finally, we left Nova Scotia, went back to New Brunswick, and then drove over the Confederation Bridge, the longest bridge in the world that goes over water that freezes in the wintertime. This is from Prince Edward Island. We drove maybe about 10 miles to Sea Cow Lighthouse, and this is where we spent the night, right here along the Red Cliffs on Prince Edward Island, watching the sun go down at the base of the Sea Cow Lighthouse. We weren't the only ones there. There were about 5 or 6 other campers there as well. Again, free boondocking site. Amazing, amazing views. Got up on the morning of the 18th and drove along the coastal drive to see some lighthouses. West Point Lighthouse, Cabot Beach Lighthouse, Cape Tryon Lighthouse, etc. Here are the views at Cape Tryon. So we're now on the northern coast of Prince Edward Island, following the coastal drive. Saw these seabirds and then a great blue heron take off. This is at the French River Bay. Then we went to see the Anne of Green Gables house. This is Lucy Maud Montgomery's childhood home, and this is the Anne of Green Gables house. Lucy Maud Montgomery lived and grew up around here, spent time with her grandparents and her aunts and uncles here in this area, and went to the nearby school in Cavendish. In her book, the school is called Avonlea. These are some of the rooms upstairs, some of the bedrooms. When you walk around the grounds, you can easily see where she got some of the inspiration for her stories from. Now we're walking on the trail for the Haunted Wood, a 1 kilometer trail that takes you from the Anna Green Gables house over to the schoolhouse and the cemetery where Lucy Maud Montgomery is buried. And we also walked on Lover's Lane and sat by the nice flowing brook there. All right, then finally on the North Shore, we entered Prince Edward Island National Park, which has 3 different units and lots of different beaches, and it's known for its characteristic red cliffs. There's a hole in the wall there, and at Mackenzie Brook, you can actually go down onto the beach, and if it's low tide, you can walk out and have your picture taken in the hole. I happened to slip on a wet rock and fall in the seaweed right before that picture was taken, but it was still worth it. That's the lighthouse in North Rostico, and the Baywash Lighthouse, and the Cove Head Lighthouse. Well, that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Please click the subscribe button.